Hey guys, welcome to the 31st C programming tutorial, and in this tutorial we're going to be looking at the size of function. But before we actually get into that, let's just go ahead and go over a few things. So whenever we've been referring to chunks of memory, we've been calling them units of memory, and those units of memory are actually called bytes. So the smallest unit of memory that we're going to be looking at is called a byte. Also, whenever we've been talking about storing variables in memory, we've been saying that each variable only takes up one unit of memory, and that's far from the truth. Each variable type takes up the amount of memory that it needs depending on how much data it's going to be storing. For example, the integer usually takes up 4 bytes or 4 units of memory. And I say usually because some of the older computers it takes up less memory, but whenever we're going to be talking about integers, we're going to be saying that they take up 4 bytes of memory, since that's usually the case. The float also usually takes up 4 bytes of memory or 4 units of memory, and the character or the char takes up 1 byte of memory. And this is important because usually whenever you're referring to 1 byte of memory, you're going to be using the character variable or the char. So let's just say that we wanted to determine the size of any variable type, and to do that we can go ahead and use the Sizeof function. And the Sizeof function will basically just return to us the size of that variable that we pass through as a parameter in bytes. So let's just go ahead right here and print out the size of an integer out onto the screen. So we're going to say printf, and since we're printing out the size of something, we're just going to do %i for integer. And then to get the size of any variable type, you can just go ahead and call the Sizeof function. So just do Sizeof, and then pass through as a parameter the variable type that you want to get the size of. So we want to get the size of an integer, so I'm just going to pass through int. And then when I run this program, I should just get 4 out onto the screen, since my computer takes 4 bytes of memory to store an integer. Yep, perfect. We got 4. If I were to change this to float, we should get 4 as well. Yep. And if I were to change this to char or character, we should get 1, since each character takes up 1 byte of memory. Yep, perfect. Alright. And any pointer also takes up 4 bytes of memory. So if I have a character pointer, that takes up 4 bytes of memory, because all that a pointer is an address, so it just stores the address of a variable. So the pointer to anything is always 4 bytes in size. So let's just go ahead and run this, and we should get 4 out onto the screen. Yep, perfect. And we can also get the size of custom variable types. So if we wanted to get the size of a struct we made, we could go ahead and do that. But first, let's go ahead and create a structure up here. So I'm going to say type def struct, and inside of our struct we'll just store an integer called I, and we'll store a character pointer called, I guess, name. And then we'll just go ahead and call this structure my struct. Alright, so let's just go ahead right here and get the size of our structure. So I'm just going to pass through as a parameter my struct, and out onto the screen we should get 8, because an integer takes up 4 bytes of memory and any pointer takes up 4 bytes of memory. So we just add those two together and we get 8. Yep, 8, perfect. Alright, now let's just go ahead and create a myStruct object. So I'm going to say myStruct, and I'll just call this variable ms for myStruct, and then I'll set the integer equal to 5, so I'll do ms.i equals 5, and then I'll set the character pointer called name just equal to my name, so I'll say ms.name equals Adam. So now let's go ahead and look at what this variable called ms would look like in memory, an integer and a character pointer. Alright, so let's just go in Paint right here, and the first thing in our structure is the integer variable I. And remember, an integer takes up 4 bytes or 4 units of memory, so we're just going to block off 4 units of memory right here, or 4 bytes, and then we're just going to say that these 4 bytes of memory right here store 5, since we set the integer inside of our struct equal to 5. So I'm just going to put a 0, a 0, a 0, and then a 5 right here. And then the next thing inside of our ms variable is a character pointer, and any pointer takes up 4 bytes of memory as well, so we're just going to block off these 4 bytes of memory to store the address of my name. And we'll just say that the address of my name is 1234. And then let's just go ahead and draw out my name down here. So my name takes up 5 bytes of memory, takes up A, D, A, M, and then we need that null terminating character, so /0, and then we're just going to go ahead and block off these 5 bytes, and these 5 bytes right here is just storing my name, so it's just storing this right here. And then this name, so this character pointer called name, just stores the address of my name. So we're just going to go ahead right here and say that the address of my name is 1, 2, 3, 4. Or we could even draw an arrow saying that these 4 bytes of memory right here point to my name. Alright, so again, these 8 bytes of memory right here just represent the struct ms. Alright, so again, if we were to just run our program, we just get 8 out onto the screen to represent the 8 bytes that store the integer I, which stores 5, and the address to my name. So this structure right here stores an integer and a pointer to a character array. So we could change this right here to any length that we want. We can make it as long as we want, and it will not change the size of our structure because this stores the address of a character array, not the actual character array itself. So now if we run this, we'll still get 8. Yeah, perfect. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this tutorial, so see you guys.